BeamNG added new drafting and aero physics for 0.39. They include slipstream, side draft, bump draft, and wake physics. Let me show you in detail about how all of that works. To start with, we need to talk about the three kinds of drafting. The main kind is the kind that everyone means when they talk about drafting. Slipstream. Slipstreaming is where you slip until the stream left behind a car, reducing your drag and allowing you to accelerate noticeably faster than them. As you move closer to the lead car, you lower the turbulence behind them, lowering their drag as well. This means that they too will have an increase in speed. Bump drafting, the next form of drafting, takes that to the extreme. While bump drafting, not only do you significantly reduce the drag on the rear of the lead car, but you also push, or bump, their car as well, which further increases both of your speeds. The final type of drafting is side drafting. Unlike the other two types, which are mutually beneficial, side drafting is entirely competitive. While side drafting, you are increasing the turbulence on the lead vehicle while slightly reducing the drag on your own. This means that the lead car slows down while your car slightly speeds up. The closer you are to the rear corner of their car, the stronger the effect it has. Of course, this effect will also apply to you if you do not break away from the other car in time. So, how do all of these effects actually affect the vehicles in BeamNG? Well, I gathered a few friends to test exactly that. Max, Zack, and I took 3 MD series box trucks to Johnson Valley in order to see exactly how much of an effect these new aero physics had on the vehicles. To set the baseline, I put my MD series on cruise control at 100 kilometers an hour. We can see that the throttle pedal input sits around 27 to 28% without any external influence. While drafting one box truck, we can see that my throttle input went all the way down to 14%, and after adding an additional box truck in front of the train, we can see that it has zero influence on the throttle position. So, unlike some early versions of third-party drafting mods, the slipstream effect does not appear to be cumulative. Moving the trucks around so that I am in the middle, we saw the throttle position farther drop down to 13%. Though, after watching the footage, I realized that Zack's truck was not perfectly aligned with mine, meaning the actual achievable number could have been as low as 11 or even 10%. Taking just the front truck away and only having a rear truck draft me, the throttle input increased up to 23%, though that is still a bit less than the 27% baseline. Switching over to side drafting, we can see that with one truck side drafting me, throttle position increases up to 31 to 32%. Introducing another truck into the mix, and my throttle position actually goes down? This is because of two reasons. One, the trucks were actually too far forwards for the side draft effect to really do much, something which I'd only realized after running the tests. And two, side drafting does not scale linearly with another car. You cannot just add a second vehicle and receive double the drag. Something which I had learned from the BeamNG developer Stenyak. And speaking of Stenyak, I reached out to him to ask about the new physics and how they all worked. He said the new aero physics function off a secondary wind system added to the game specifically for them, though everything that was added does derive from pre-existing systems which were already in-game. For example, the wind gust use the existing wind system and interact with the aero nodes already in place on the vehicles and props. So in circumstances where a prop or modded car is lacking properly tuned aero, it may not behave as expected. As for the slipstreaming, that works by projecting a line behind any lead cars, then applying the correct amount of drafting effect to any trailing cars within that line. This means that it could work with as many cars that can cover the front of your car, while still receiving the proper amount of draft from any single one of them. Side drafting, on the other hand, only works with one vehicle per side, which from an aero standpoint makes sense. And the game does intentionally have differing levels of effect between 1 and 2 side drafting cars. Lastly, as with anything in BeamNG, the newly added aero physics may receive additional tweaks and improvements with future updates. But that being said, even what we have now is awesome, and so much more in-depth than I personally ever knew drafting could be. So, I want to thank Stenyak for taking the time to answer all of my questions and allowing me to show his answers directly in this video. Going back to that wake splash effect, we have yet to really take a look at it, so let's test out just how extreme it can truly be. First, here is an example that you will probably see yourself at some point in game. Just driving by rally flags. Now, you might not be going 200 kilometers an hour when you do, but here's what that looks like. Okay, so the flags flap as expected, and look pretty satisfying while doing so. But what if we use something a bit more solid, like delineator post, and doubled our speed up to 400 kilometers an hour? Those posts fell over surprisingly pretty easily. So what if we scale up our props even more and have a bunch of cinder block walls in place of the posts? And hey, they swayed slightly. They just did not fall over. Which means we'd need to scale the vehicle up this time. Okay, so we have a much bigger vehicle and it is going 500 kilometers an hour this time. And just like that, the walls have been knocked down. So, this effect is very effective on props, but how does it look on vehicles? Here I have some pigeons lined up, and here comes the dump truck. Huh. Like, they do wiggle, don't get me wrong, but honestly, for such a big vehicle moving at such a high speed, I would have honestly thought that they would have moved a lot more. I said honestly a lot, though this could be due to any number of factors. And this is actually not the only scenario where I would have expected a stronger effect. The other scenario is a lack of lateral wind which hits your car when you meet large vehicles in oncoming traffic. When I tested, there did not seem to be any effect at all in that regard, apart from some slight head-on wind resistance. So, as long as you were facing the direction of the car, the new effects work quite well. And you can even use that to your advantage, such as saving on fuel. If you are anything like me, you might have wondered just how much fuel you can save by tailgating a semi-truck. Well, Max and I tested that in this mile-long stretch of freeway in West Coast. As a baseline, going 90 kilometers an hour, my little Corvette achieved a pretty respectable 54 miles per gallon. Running the same test again while drafting a truck, you can see that my throttle position went from about 26% down to 19-ish%, which meant my fuel economy went from 54 miles per gallon all the way up to 76 miles per gallon. Now, I should state that there are many very obvious reasons why you should not do this in real life, but in game, it is still cool to see the effect nonetheless. If you are going to try it out yourself, or would like to validate my result, do keep in mind that the effects may be reduced in a future update. So, that was just me taking a deep dive into BeamNG's new Aero physics. I think all of the scenarios showcased are all pretty neat, and of course all of these new additions do help significantly with racing too. And if you would like to see that, you can check out the video that Zack, Max, Midnight, and I all made over on Zack's channel. And even outside of racing, the new Aero effects are all super cool, and I am happy that we finally have them in the vanilla game. I cannot wait to experiment with them even more. But until then, thank you guys for watching. This has been Akimbo, and I am signing off.